Kim Ji-won pressed his back against the cold metal dumpster, rainwater dripping from his torn jacket onto the cracked pavement. The autumn wind carried the smell of industrial waste and forgotten dreams through Seoul's abandoned warehouse district. His sharp eyes, trained by years of military service, tracked every movement in the shadows ahead. 3 men in expensive black suits dragged a small boy from a sleek sedan. The child's school uniform was torn, his face streaked with tears as he struggled against hands twice the size of his own. Park Min-ho, only 8 years old, had been walking home from Gangnam Elementary when they grabbed him. Ji-won had witnessed the entire kidnapping from his makeshift shelter beneath an overpass. The homeless man's fingers instinctively reached for weapons that weren't there. 2 years ago, Dr. Kim Ji-won had been Seoul's most promising quantum physicist, living in a penthouse apartment with government contracts worth millions. Now he survived on scraps, sleeping in subway tunnels that most people feared to enter. Daehan Corporation had destroyed his life with surgical precision, stolen his research, planted evidence, and left him branded as a traitor to his own country. But they couldn't steal his mind or his training. Ji-won studied the warehouse like a tactical puzzle. 6 guards patrolled the perimeter, their movements predictable and lazy. Security cameras mounted on rusted poles swept back and forth in programmed patterns. The building itself was a relic from Seoul's industrial past, now serving as a perfect hiding place for criminal operations. The lead kidnapper, a man with gold teeth and expensive shoes, spoke into his phone. "We have the captain's boy. She'll think twice about raiding our operations now." His voice carried the arrogance of someone who believed money made him untouchable. Ji-won's jaw clenched. Captain Park Sora had been the only honest cop willing to investigate Daehan Corporation's illegal activities. She'd tried to help him when everyone else turned away. Now her son was paying the price for her integrity. Moving with ghost-like silence, Ji-won circled to the warehouse's blind spot. Years of living underground had taught him to move without sound, to become invisible in plain sight. His combat engineering background from the army had kept him alive when corporate assassins came hunting. Now those same skills would save an innocent child. The first security camera died quietly, its lens covered by a scrap of reflective metal Ji-won had salvaged from a construction site. The second camera received the same treatment. One by one, he created blind spots in their electronic surveillance, using nothing but scraps and genius-level understanding of electrical systems. The exterior guards never saw him coming. The first man collapsed silently, pressure point strike, rendering him unconscious before he could cry out. The second guard found himself facing empty air where his partner had been standing, confusion lasting just long enough for Ji-won to strike from behind. Inside the warehouse, fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows between towering stacks of shipping containers. Min-ho sat tied to a metal chair in the center of a cleared space, his young face trying desperately to be brave. 4 more criminals surrounded him, automatic weapons hanging casually from shoulder straps. Ji-won had no weapons except his intellect and training, but sometimes that was enough. The warehouse's old electrical system became his ally. A carefully placed short circuit killed half the lights, plunging sections into darkness. In the confusion that followed, Ji-won moved like a phantom. The first gunman fell to a sleeper hold applied with medical precision. The second found his weapon jammed by a small piece of metal wedged into the firing mechanism at exactly the right angle. "What's happening?" Gold Teeth shouted, his expensive confidence cracking. "Where are my men?" Ji-won appeared from the shadows. Behind him, moving faster than fear could travel. A single strike to the nerve cluster in the man's neck dropped him like a stone. The remaining criminals spun wildly, firing at shadows and hitting nothing but empty air. When silence returned to the warehouse, only young Min-ho remained conscious, his eyes wide with amazement rather than terror. "Are you hurt?" Ji-won asked, gently cutting the boy's restraints with a piece of sharp metal. Min-ho shook his head, staring at this strange homeless man who fought like a superhero from his favorite movies. "Who are you?" "Just someone who believes children should be safe," Ji-won replied, helping the boy to his feet. "Your mother will be here soon." Outside, police sirens wailed through the Seoul night. Captain Park Sora's voice echoed over bullhorns as tactical units surrounded the warehouse. But by the time they breached the building, They found only unconscious criminals and a grateful child. G1 had vanished into the maze of underground passages that networked beneath the city like veins beneath skin. He left behind only a simple note written on torn cardboard. The child is safe, justice will find its way. In the darkness of the subway tunnels, the homeless physicist disappeared once again, carrying secrets that would soon change the fate of humanity itself. Captain Park, Zora stared at the security footage for the 100th time, her coffee growing cold as she studied every frame. The grainy black and white images showed a figure moving through shadows like smoke, appearing and disappearing with impossible skill. Whoever had saved her son possessed abilities that defied normal human limits. 3 weeks had passed since Minho's rescue, but Zora couldn't let it go. She'd pulled strings, called in favors, and spent her own money hiring private investigators. The mysterious savior had left no fingerprints, no DNA, nothing except that handwritten note and the unconscious criminals. But Zora was a cop who never gave up on a case. Her breakthrough came from an unlikely source. Lee Min-jung, a teenage hacker, who traded information for protection from gang violence, had accessed the city's network of traffic cameras. By combining footage from 17 different angles, she'd tracked the homeless man's path through Seoul's underground maze. He moves like he knows every tunnel, every maintenance shaft, Min-jung explained, her fingers dancing across multiple keyboards. This isn't some street person. This guy has serious training. The trail led to an abandoned subway station beneath Gangnam District, a place that had been sealed off after construction accidents years ago. Zora descended into the tunnels alone, her flashlight cutting through darkness that seemed to swallow sound. The air smelled of rust, dampness, and forgotten time. She found him in a chamber lined with discarded electronics and jury-rigged equipment. Dozens of screens flickered with data streams, showing everything from stock market feeds to government communications. Books on quantum physics lay scattered among military survival manuals. The homeless man sat before a makeshift workstation, solving mathematical equations that would challenge university professors. Dr. Kim Ji-won, Zora said quietly, recognizing him from old news articles she'd researched. Seoul's former golden boy of quantum science. Ji-won turned slowly, his eyes holding the wariness of someone who'd learned to trust no one. 2 years of street life had carved deep lines into his face, but his mind remained sharp as a blade. Captain Park, I wondered when you'd find me. The transformation was shocking. This broken man had once stood beside government ministers, announcing breakthroughs that would revolutionize space travel. His quantum displacement theories had promised to unlock faster-than-light travel, making interstellar exploration possible within human lifetimes. Now he lived like a ghost in the city's forgotten places. You saved my son, Zora said, producing a thermos of hot soup and fresh bread. The least I can do is buy you dinner. Ji-won stared at the food like it might be poisoned. Charity from the system that destroyed me, how generous. This isn't charity, it's gratitude. Zora sat on a concrete block, making herself comfortable. I've read your files, Doctor. Daehan Corporation didn't just steal your research. They systematically destroyed your life. The bitter laugh that escaped Ji-won's throat held no humor. Daehan wanted my quantum drive technology for themselves. When I refused to sell, they planted evidence of espionage in my apartment. Suddenly I was a traitor, my security clearance revoked, my bank accounts frozen. My colleagues wouldn't return my calls. My fiancée left me. Everything gone in 72 hours. Zora had seen the classified files. Ji-won's research into quantum displacement fields could theoretically allow spacecraft to bend space-time, traveling vast distances instantaneously. The military applications alone were worth billions, but the peaceful applications could transform human civilization, opening the galaxy to exploration and colonization. The evidence against you was fabricated, Zora said. I can prove it. With what? The system that railroaded me the first time. Ji-won's hands clenched into fists. I trusted the law once. I believed truth would prevail. Now I know better. Before Zora could respond, her phone buzzed with an emergency alert. The message made her blood run cold. Someone had placed explosive devices around Minho's school. The Huang crime family was escalating their war against her anti-corruption investigations. "They're targeting children now," she whispered, showing Ji-won the message. "My son's school has been evacuated, but they won't stop. They'll keep coming. After everyone I care about." Ji-won studied the tactical information on her phone with professional interest. His mind automatically began analyzing security patterns, identifying weaknesses in the school's defenses. Despite his bitterness, he couldn't ignore a threat to innocent children. "The Huang family operates like a military unit," he said. "They have inside information about police movements, sophisticated equipment, and no moral boundaries. Your standard police procedures won't work against them." "Then help me," Sora urged. "You have skills they don't expect. You saved Minho once, help me save him again." Ji-won was quiet for a long moment, staring at his quantum equations on the flickering screens. Somewhere in those calculations lay the key to humanity's future among the stars. But what good were dreams of distant galaxies when evil flourished on Earth? "The moment I surface, Daehan will try to have me killed," he warned. "They've invested too much in burying my work to let me live freely." "Then we expose them first," Sora replied. "Your technology, my badge. Together we can bring down this whole conspiracy." The homeless physicist looked at this determined police captain who refused to abandon justice, even when it put her family at risk. Maybe, just maybe, there was still hope for truth in this corrupt world. "All right, Captain," Ji-won said, standing up slowly. "Let's give them a war they'll never forget." The abandoned subway tunnel stretched into darkness like the throat of some sleeping giant. Captain Park Sora followed Dr. Kim Ji-won deeper underground, their flashlights cutting through air thick with decades of dust and secrets. Water dripped steadily from cracked concrete above, each drop echoing like a countdown to discovery. "It's been hidden here for 3 years, Ji-won whispered, his voice barely audible over their footsteps on rusted rails. "When Daehan's security forces raided my lab, I had 20 minutes to save my life's work." They reached a section where the tunnel branched into 3 directions. Ji-won knelt beside what looked like ordinary maintenance panels, but his fingers traced hidden patterns only he knew. Click, click, whir. Ancient mechanisms groaned to life, and a section of the wall slid away with surprising smoothness. Behind. The false wall lay a chamber that took Sora's breath away. Banks of computers hummed quietly, powered by illegal taps into the city's electrical grid. Holographic displays showed 3-dimensional models of spacecraft engines that seemed to bend reality itself. But at the center of it all sat a device that looked like it belonged in a science fiction movie. The quantum displacement drive prototype was smaller than Sora had expected, about the size of a washing machine, but it radiated an energy that made the air itself seem to vibrate. Crystalline components pulsed with soft blue light, and mathematical equations scrolled across integrated displays in languages that hurt to look at directly. "My God," Sora breathed. "You actually built it." Ji-won's hands caressed the device like a parent touching a sleeping child. 15 years of research, every breakthrough, every failure, every late night when I chose equations over sleep. This machine doesn't just move through space, it moves space itself. He activated a holographic display that showed a miniature galaxy spinning slowly in the air between them. Tiny points of light represented stars separated by impossible distances. Then Ji-won input a command, and the display showed how his drive could fold space-time like origami, bringing distant stars within reach. Traditional. "Rockets push against space," he explained, excitement creeping into his voice despite their dangerous situation. "But the quantum drive convinces the universe that 2 distant points are actually the same location. A ship equipped with this technology could travel to Alpha Centauri in minutes instead of decades." Sora stared at the implications. Humanity could spread across the galaxy, finding new worlds, new resources, new possibilities for their species. No more energy wars, no more fighting over oil or rare minerals when entire solar systems waited to be explored. "Then why did they want to bury this?" she asked. Ji-won's expression darkened. "Because it would end their control. Daehan Corporation makes billions from fossil fuels, mining operations, traditional aerospace contracts. If humanity can travel between stars as easily as taking a bus across town, their monopolies become worthless overnight." Their investigation had revealed the true scope of the conspiracy over the past week. Lee Minjung's hacking skills had uncovered financial records that painted a picture of corruption, reaching the highest levels of government and business. Bank transfers, coded communications, assassination contracts. The evidence was overwhelming and terrifying. "Look at this," Minjung's voice crackled through encrypted radio as she worked from her hidden location across the city. "I've traced the money flow. Daehan didn't just steal your research, Doctor. They've been systematically buying up every alternative energy company, every space technology firm, every researcher who might threaten their business model." The teenager's fingers flew across multiple keyboards as she pulled up classified documents on her screens. "They're not just a corporation anymore. They're more like a shadow government with their own army. And the Huang crime family. They're just the muscle for hire." Sora felt sick as the full picture emerged. The Huang family's attacks on her weren't random criminal violence. They were surgical strikes designed to eliminate anyone who might help Ji-won reclaim his technology. Her anti-corruption investigations had accidentally threatened a conspiracy worth trillions of dollars. "They killed Professor Chang last year," Ji-won said quietly, referring to his former research partner. "Made it look like a heart attack." "Doctor, Lee disappeared 6 months ago. Officially she moved to Canada, but I know better. Anyone who understood my work well enough to recreate it has been eliminated or silenced." The quantum drive hummed softly, its crystalline components pulsing with contained power that could reshape human civilization. But that same technology had painted targets on the backs of everyone who knew it existed. "There's more," Minjung reported through their radios. "I've found communications between Daehan executives and someone they call the benefactor. They're not working alone. This conspiracy has international connections, maybe even off-world support." Sora's blood went cold. "Off-world? The communication protocols use encryption methods that don't match any human technology in our databases," Minjung continued. "Either Daehan has developed incredibly advanced systems, or they're getting help from sources that officially don't exist." Ji-won stared at his quantum drive with new understanding. "They're not just suppressing my technology to protect their profits. They're suppressing it to keep humanity trapped on Earth. Someone or something doesn't want us traveling between the stars." The chamber suddenly felt smaller, more claustrophobic. Somewhere above them, Seoul continued its daily rhythm, unaware that the future of human civilization hung in the balance in an abandoned subway tunnel. The quantum drive contained the key to freedom among the stars, but powerful forces would kill to keep that key buried forever. "We need to get this device to safety," Sora said, making her decision, "and we need to expose this conspiracy before they eliminate us too." But as they prepared to move the prototype, alarms began echoing. Through the tunnel system, red lights flashed, and the sound of heavy boots on metal grew closer. They had been found. The first gunshot shattered the underground silence like thunder in a cathedral. Captain Park Sora dove behind the quantum drive prototype as bullets sparked off the tunnel walls, sending fragments of concrete flying through the air like deadly confetti. The acrid smell of gunpowder mixed with the metallic taste of fear in her throat. "Surrender the device, Dr. Kim." The voice belonged to Director Huang, the crime family's ruthless leader, his words echoing through the abandoned subway chamber. "You've caused enough trouble for everyone." 20 armed figures emerged from the shadows, their tactical gear gleaming under emergency lighting. Half wore the black uniforms of Daehan Corporation's private security force, while the others displayed the dragon tattoos of the Huang crime family. Their weapons were military-grade, designed to kill rather than capture. Ji-won crouched beside his life's work, hands trembling as bullets whistled overhead. The quantum drive pulsed with contained energy, its crystalline components glowing brighter, with each passing second as if responding to the danger around them. 3 years of hiding, 3 years of careful planning, and now it would all end in this forgotten tunnel beneath Seoul. "There's no way out," Sora whispered, checking her service weapon. 6 bullets against 20 professional killers. The mathematics of survival looked grim, but Ji-won stared at his prototype with sudden understanding. The device wasn't just a propulsion system for spacecraft. His equations had always hinted at something more, something that had terrified him too much to test. The quantum field could theoretically manipulate local spacetime in ways that defied conventional physics. "The emergency protocols," he muttered, his fingers dancing across the drive's control interface. "I never thought I'd be desperate enough to try them." "What are you doing?" Sora demanded, as more gunfire erupted around them. "Something that might kill us all," Ji-won replied, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Or something that might save humanity's future." The quantum drive responded to his commands with electronic songs that seemed to come from another dimension. Warning lights flashed red, then yellow, then colors that had no names in human language. The air itself began to shimmer like heat waves rising from summer pavement. Director Huang's tactical team advanced methodically, their boots echoing against tunnel walls as they closed the trap. "You cannot escape, Doctor. Give us the device, and we'll make your death quick." Ji-won's finger hovered over the final activation sequence. Once pressed, there would be no stopping the reaction. The prototype would either tear them apart at the molecular level or grant them abilities that belonged in fantasy novels rather than scientific journals. "Trust me," he whispered to Sora and pressed the control. The world exploded into impossible sensations. Reality twisted like taffy in the hands of a cosmic child. The quantum field expanded outward from the prototype in waves of distorted spacetime, turning the abandoned tunnel into a landscape of fluid physics. Gravity became optional. Distance became negotiable. The very concept of solid matter began to blur at the edges. Ji-won felt his consciousness expand beyond the boundaries of his physical body. He could perceive the quantum structure underlying reality itself, see the mathematical equations that governed existence, written in letters of pure energy. The field wasn't just around him. It was part of him, responding to his thoughts like an extension of his nervous system. The first attacker fired directly at Ji-won's chest, but the bullets passed through him like he was made of mist. The quantum field had shifted his molecular structure slightly out of phase with normal reality. He existed in the spaces between atoms, in the gaps where physics got confused about what was possible. Moving with thought speed rather than muscle speed, Ji-won flowed through the concrete wall behind him and materialized behind the gunman. A gentle touch to the man's pressure points sent him collapsing unconsciously to the tunnel floor. The weapon clattered harmlessly away. "Impossible," Director Huang snarled, his professional composure cracking like ice in spring. "Kill them both. Use everything." Automatic weapons opened fire from multiple directions, filling the tunnel with a storm of lead and sparks. But Ji-won danced between the bullets like smoke in a hurricane. The quantum field allowed him to perceive the attackers' intentions before they pulled their triggers, to step sideways through dimensions that existed only in theoretical physics, textbooks. Sora watched in amazement as her unlikely ally moved like a ghost made of lightning. He appeared behind one attacker, disarmed another through a solid wall, and somehow managed to be in 3 places simultaneously when the situation demanded it. This wasn't just advanced technology. This was magic, wearing the disguise of science. The battle lasted less than 3 minutes. When the quantum field finally stabilized, 20 unconscious figures lay scattered throughout the tunnel system, their weapons safely disabled. Ji-won stood in the center of it all, his eyes still glowing with residual energy from the space-time manipulation. But something else had happened during the activation. The quantum signature had punched through Earth's atmosphere like a cosmic lighthouse, broadcasting humanity's newfound technological capability across the galaxy. Radio telescopes around the world detected the signal's passage, but none of them understood its true significance. Far beyond the orbit of Pluto, ancient monitoring stations awakened from centuries of patient waiting. Automated systems began transmitting reports across interstellar distances at speeds that made light seem sluggish. The message was simple but profound. The third planet from Sol had achieved quantum displacement technology. The Watchers had been waiting for this moment for over 1,000 years, on a world whose name existed only in harmonic frequencies that human throats could never pronounce. Beings of crystalline intelligence received the signal with what could be called satisfaction. The young species had finally taken its first step toward joining the galactic community. It was time for first contact. The morning sky over Sol transformed without warning. What had been clear blue atmosphere suddenly rippled like water disturbed by an invisible stone. Citizens stopped in the streets, pointing upward, as reality itself seemed to bend and fold above their heads. Then, emerging from what looked like a tear in space itself, came something that changed human history forever. The Keeper vessel defied every law of physics that humanity thought it understood. The ship appeared to be made of living crystal that shifted colors like an aurora trapped in solid form. It was massive yet graceful, ancient yet impossibly advanced. As it descended through Earth's atmosphere, it left trails of quantum energy that made the air sing with harmonics that touched the soul. Dr. Kim Ji-won stood on the roof of the abandoned warehouse where everything had begun, watching humanity's first contact unfold. The quantum drive prototype hummed beside him, its crystalline components resonating in sympathy with the alien ship's approach. After 3 years of living as a ghost in Seoul's underground, he was about to become the most important human being alive. "They've been watching us," he whispered to Captain Park Sora, who stood beside him with her hand resting on her weapon out of pure habit. "The quantum signature we released yesterday, it was like sending up a flare that could be seen across the galaxy." The Keeper ship touched down in the center of Seoul's Olympic Stadium with impossible gentleness, its crystalline hull adapting to the stadium's shape like liquid mercury finding its level. Within minutes, military units from every major power on Earth surrounded the area, but their weapons seemed pitiful compared to the technology that had just landed among them. The first Keeper to emerge from the vessel moved with fluid grace. That suggested bones and muscles were optional concepts. Its form was humanoid but clearly not human, tall and slender, with skin that shifted between translucent and opaque, like living glass. When it spoke, the words formed directly in listeners' minds rather than traveling through air as sound waves. "Greetings, children of Seoul 3. The Keeper ambassador communicated to the hastily assembled crowd of world leaders, scientists, and military officials. "I am Melodic of Distant Stars, speaker for the Galactic Preservation Council. We have been watching your species develop for many of your centuries. The revelation sent shockwaves through every government on Earth. Humanity was not alone. More importantly, they had been under observation by beings so advanced that they could travel between stars as easily as humans traveled between cities. Your species has achieved the threshold," Melodic of Distant Stars continued, its crystalline form pulsing with gentle light. "The independent development of quantum displacement technology marks a civilization's readiness to join the greater galactic community. Dr. Kim Ji-won's breakthrough proves that humanity possesses both the intelligence and the moral courage necessary for star travel." Within the United Nations building in New York, an emergency session convened with representatives from every nation on Earth. The massive assembly hall buzzed with translations in dozens of languages as world leaders struggled to comprehend the magnitude of what was happening. Cameras broadcast the historic moment to every corner of the planet. Ji-won found himself standing before this assembly, no longer the homeless physicist hiding in Seoul's tunnels, but suddenly humanity's most crucial representative. The quantum drive prototype sat on a specially constructed platform beside him, its soft blue glow serving as evidence that everything the Keepers claimed was true. 3 years ago I was branded a traitor and cast out by my own people, Ji-won began, his voice carrying clearly through the translation systems. Dehan Corporation and their criminal partners tried to bury my research to protect their profits from fossil fuels and traditional energy sources. They destroyed my life, killed my colleagues, and nearly succeeded in keeping humanity trapped on Earth forever. The assembled delegates listened in stunned silence as Ji-won revealed the full scope of the conspiracy. Financial records, assassination, orders, corruption that reached the highest levels of multiple governments. Lee Min-jung's hacking had provided evidence that would keep prosecutors busy for decades. But breakthrough science cannot be contained by corporate greed or criminal violence, Ji-won continued, his hand resting on the quantum drive that had changed everything. Truth has a way of emerging from even the darkest places. This device, built in secret and hidden in abandoned tunnels, represents humanity's ticket to the stars. The Keepers had brought more than just greetings. Their ship contained technological gifts that would transform human civilization overnight. Medical devices that could cure diseases by rewriting genetic code, energy systems that could power entire continents without environmental damage, manufacturing techniques that could produce any material by rearranging atoms like building blocks. Captain Park Sora received promotion to head Earth's newly established planetary defense force, working alongside Keeper military advisors to protect humanity from less benevolent species that roamed the galaxy. Her son Minho, the child whose rescue had started this entire chain of events, became one of the first human students enrolled in Keeper educational programs. The abandoned warehouse where G1 had once hidden his prototype became the construction site for Earth's first interstellar research facility. Keeper engineers worked alongside human scientists to build technologies that seemed like magic made manifest. The quantum drive that had once been G1's secret project became the foundation for humanity's first starship. Standing before the United Nations, one final time before departing for the Keeper homeworld, G1 looked out at the representatives of 7 billion human beings who were about to inherit the galaxy. They tried to bury my work in corporate corruption and criminal violence, he said, his voice filled with quiet triumph. They destroyed my career, eliminated my colleagues, and cast me out like garbage. But they could not destroy the human spirit that reaches always toward the stars. Today, humanity takes its first step into a larger universe. We are no longer alone, and we are no longer trapped on a single world. The quantum drive hummed softly beside him, its crystalline components pulsing with the energy that would carry human explorers to distant suns. From the darkest betrayal had emerged humanity's greatest triumph. The age of interstellar civilization had begun. The end.